So in this video, I'm going to talk about survival in cold weather climates, including my top tips in staying warm, dry, hydrated, nourished, and safe. Coming up. What's up? Timogen here, and if this is your first time on this channel, thank you so much for stopping by. Former soldier, now full-time doc, this YouTube channel is all about survival and improvised medicine in the wild. Recently, my patient invited me to his property in northern Michigan, and I'm going to show you how to survive in the cold.
Cool. Can I come?
What?
Yeah.
Are you sure it's below zero?
That's okay. I'll have you.
All right. This should be interesting. Stay tuned.
This is Z's first time camping, and she picked the coldest time to go. We're in Michigan right now, and this is the week of the Polar Vortex in 2019. Now, I wouldn't have done this if I wasn't 100% certain would be safe. I spent 6 years in the Canadian Army, specialized in Arctic warfare and survival, and have over 10 years of wilderness experience. I've personally tested all my gear, and I've trusted it when going down to minus 60 degrees Celsius, which is minus 76 Fahrenheit for my American friends. The challenge is that I only have one set of Arctic gear, and we're 2 people.
Tip number 1
is to ventilate by layering on and layering off. You'd be surprised how hot and sweaty you can get in the cold, especially when you're carrying 50 pounds on your back. What's worse is what can happen to you physiologically. If you don't layer off, you overheat quickly, consuming excessive calories that you'll need later. You'll become dehydrated, and since your thirst response is diminished in the cold, you won't even know that you need water. And what's worse, the water canteen that you brought along may be completely frozen. The combination of overexertion and dehydration can lead to increased muscle breakdown and even kidney damage, which has happened to me more times than I could recall. I just didn't know why my urine was Gatorade red. And what happens when you stop moving? You freeze. Fast. My big tips are to ventilate with armpit and leg zips. Take off layers the moment you feel like you might break a sweat. And for water, drink often and have rehydration salts with you at all times. I prefer bringing a 2-liter insulated canteen, a big pot to melt snow or ice, and or turning your wide brim Nalgene upside down in a ziplock in a carrier in your jacket. Ice freezes top first, so you want your cap facing down so it doesn't freeze. There have been so many times that we were marching and someone finds themselves without a source of water because it is completely frozen or the cap is frozen shut. Lastly, if your gear does get wet, let it freeze overnight and shake it off in the morning. The ice will fall off and you'll have a relatively dry shirt. Trying to dry things by fire doesn't always work and often leaves at least a few scorch marks or holes. That's why our parkas stay outside our tents. Next is food and water. Like I mentioned, it may be worthwhile bringing multiple sources of your water, whether that's an insulated canteen, a big pot that you can melt ice blocks with, which you can buy at the store. For food, go for high calories, high fat, high protein. Everything I would recommend against in clinic. Just be aware that everything you bring will freeze. For long expedition, it's important to bring a variety of spices, changing up the taste, but also can act as a laxative to combat constipation. May not seem like an important thing, but your body expends a ton of energy trying to keep your poop and your urine warm. So what does that mean? We got to get it out, especially before you sleep. There were some training missions where it was so painfully cold at night that we would pee in non-lubricated condoms, tie them off, and use them as warmer. Third, we gotta consider a good shelter. Think of layers in this situation as air pockets. In the Army, we used a 3-layered 10-man tent, an outer layer that was water resistant, and 2 inner cotton layers. For us, I had to improvise. I used my 2.5-person tent, a Mylar tarp on top of that, and then another large tarp on top of that encompassed 270 degrees of our tent. For insulation, you want to be at least 3 inches off the ground or snow when you're sleeping. Whether that's from natural natural debris like pine tree boughs or your mattress. You can increase insulation by making a fourth layer around your tent, a snow wall, which ideally would cover all the way up to just the tip of your tent. This not only traps the heat in, but also blocks the wind. One tip I have for heat inside your tent is if you're camping in deep winter conditions where there's at least 3 feet of snow, instead of shoveling to the ground, consider stomping and compacting the snow that you're going to set up your tent on with your snowshoes. The reason why you do this is how you set up your fire. The fire you can dig down to the ground where it's at least 2 feet below where you're going to be sleeping. This allows the heat to rise to the very level that you're sleeping on. Contrast this with digging your whole shelter to the ground and putting your fire at ground level. If you do this, there will be about a 2-foot cold pocket from the ground to your waist. To avoid that, you can be 2 or 3 feet up on compact snow. And if you're insulated from that snow, it won't melt beneath you. For heating sources, this in our type of setup, I would avoid Coleman stoves and naphthalene-filled lamps. It is a fire risk and also carbon monoxide risk in such a small space. Instead, use a long fire about 3 feet away from the entrance, dug to the ground. For equipment, I would recommend a mid-size or large axe, at least with a 19-inch handle, a buck saw, 20 inches long, and a knife. 3 sources of fire, and at least a backup cooker, like a jet boil, in case you need to make water from ice fast. This sounds like a lot of gear, but in the winter, you can just load it up on a sled and pull it. And I'll post the links to all the gear that I used in this video below. Lastly, and most importantly, think about safety. If this is your first time winter camping, start with somewhere you're familiar with and you have easy access to switching this from an outdoor experience to an indoor experience if the conditions aren't favorable or if an emergency happens. Okay, now that you've had a few winter camping experiences and you want to go in the middle of nowhere, this is what you need to do for safety. Let everyone know when you are leaving, your starting point, your route, your endpoint, and your expected time to return home, with instructions for rescue or further actions. For instance, I told my co-residents where I was going, when I was going, and to call the police or fire department if I didn't return home by a specific time. That way, all you need to do to survive is to wait for help.
Hey, thank you so much for checking out this video. If you like what you saw, smash that like button below and definitely subscribe. Follow me on social media if you want to see more. Remember, there's an entire summary of this video in the video descriptions below. Next video, I'll be doing a deep dive on the gear that was used in this video, which kept me warm in the subarctic. And also I'll be talking about the injuries and illnesses that I faced in sub-zero temperatures. Until next time, stay warm out there and adventure on, and we will talk soon.